They march proudly in their crisp uniforms during pass-out parades, badges gleaming with promise. But for many of Kenya's police officers, deployment to remote border stations means isolation, danger, and a fight for survival that the public never sees. In this exclusive investigation, NTV's senior reporter Ngina Kirori uncovers the deadly neglect facing officers on Kenya's forgotten front lines, where calling for backup isn't possible. Medical help is hours away, and some officers pay the ultimate price. This is Forgotten on the Front Line.
At the height of the protests, comedian Crazy Kenna uploaded this video depicting the living conditions police officers face. Suffice it to say that the saying comedy imitates real life could not hold true here.
Good job today. Now tomorrow, you're blocking the demonstrators from Miami. Come tomorrow when you're energized.
The police work depends squarely on how they command, control, and communicate, and the integration of the same in the whole grand scheme of the idealizing the police work and, of course, the execution of the jobs themselves.
It took us about 8 hours to get from Nairobi to Marsabit town, but we're not done yet. We still have another 12-hour journey to get to a place known as Ileret through unknown roads, quite literally, as it doesn't appear on any map we have searched for it on. We have been forced to depend on a guide who will then help us navigate our way to the area.
The journey to Ileret in Marsabit County begins with a warning. You are entering forgotten territory. The battered sandy roads, worsened during the rainy seasons, stretch endlessly ahead. What should be a manageable journey becomes a long endurance test. A tire puncture. Locals say its routine on these roads becomes more than lost time. It is a security threat. We are reminded we are vulnerable here, sitting on the porous Kenya-Ethiopia border. Ileret town sits in eerie silence, devoid of the hustle you'd find elsewhere. The feeling of abandonment is overwhelming, and it's mirrored by the security agencies meant to protect this area. In 2017, the World Internal Security and Police Index ranked Kenya's police service third worst globally, a damning indictment that becomes starkly visible here.
And the domains that the report talked about were, of course, processes, capacity, outcomes, and legitimacy.
It is difficult to tell that this is a police station, so difficult that we stumbled upon it by mistake, believing that it was a pile of ruins left behind after a battle had taken place in the past. But a closer look at the stones marking the words Ileret Police Station betrayed its status. A sharp contrast to police stations in the country. This one has no fence, wall, gate, or anybody manning it. Inside, a maze of collapsed shacks masquerades as a security installation. The harsh winds have claimed parts of the roof, forcing officers to patch walls with brown foam and barbed wire, desperate attempts to create shelter from nothing. This mess hall, where officers eat and watch TV, sits under a roof that surrenders to every rainfall. Security expert Byron Adera explains why this neglect creates national risks beyond just officer welfare.
In terms of the frontline exposure to these transnational crimes, if we are thinking that we are not very optimized for performance around those big domains, then we are more exposed to these transnational crimes. And we are talking human trafficking, we're talking drug issues that are affecting the country quite a bit. We are talking proliferation of small arms and light weapons, which by the Geneva paper, remember, 2018, put at in excess of 650,000 within the arms of people who don't deserve to have them in their hands.
The irony is devastating. Police stations should be secure strongholds, but these are soft targets, vulnerable to the very criminals they are meant to stop.
The police station is a point of high security environment as it should be or as it is. And so if you're thinking this is where guns are stored, heavy amounts of ammunition are stored, individuals that are humans that are, of course, high-value targets for criminals, because if you want to shop for a gun and you think, oh, just raiding a police station will give you that, it should be a hard target.
At nearby Darate, we find an officer who agrees to speak on condition that we protect his identity. His words reveal the full scope of the abandonment.
Pia hardships do kama ni maji ama kuni tunaendea, pia ni challenge pia tuna gari hapa, so chote ni kujitegemea tu. Security bado iko hapa, ni kilomita ambaye ni 100 kutoka Northern, 100 kutoka Ileret, so ni challenge ni mingi tu.
This empty metal tower was meant to provide mobile network access, abandoned halfway through construction. Officers exist in a communication void, unable to call for backup during emergencies or attacks. They are truly in no man's land.
Mr. Communication, you say the Ileret, I'm a Northern.
Kwa nini?
Hakuna network, tuko tu, hatuna hata in case of any problem, kama mtu agonjeke, kuna communication kama radio call. Msamaria mema tu kama nyinyi akipita tu ndo atapeleka huyo hospitali.
The psychological toll of this isolation becomes clear as Ernest describes their forgotten existence. Ernest adds that they are never aware about whether they have been transferred, since they receive no phone calls or messages and have no visitation from their seniors.
Actually, tunahisi vibaya. Juu sasa hata maendeleo kwako nyumbani huwezi fanya. Kwa hiyo uko tu nyumbani, ujulikani mahali uko sahi, hujui kama uko hai ama uko, mpaka utafute means. Kama sahi kumenyesha, barabara ipitiki. Once in a while, ukinyesha tu sasa ni kusahau, ujulikani nyumbani mahali uko, hata ofisi yenyewe mahali wako mpaka wapigie simu waseme challenges zenu, hawana habari.
Scribbled on station walls are desperate thoughts from current and former officers, physical evidence of their psychological suffering.
You need to some extent, actually to a huge extent, a healthy dosage of internal dissent. And that is not to mean a revolution from your internal setups. It means that there are people who are able to sit around a table like this one, possibly even, angrily or very, very resolutely, not bang on the tables, but put their feet down and say, oh, well, this ship is not being steered in the right direction.
What began as dreams of serving their country has become prayers for rescue from what they call forsaken land.
Kitambo tulikuwa tunafurahia. Kazi ya askari ni mzuri. Juu tujaona challenge yao. Hata challenge ikiwa tujue kama ni ngumu.
The plight of these officers is a familiar scene in the country. Hundreds of police officers in far-flung areas are suffering from poor infrastructure, equipment, and facilities, the effects of which have taken a toll on their mental health.
Ni pekee tu ndo mnaongea hapa kama wenda wazimu. Mpaka uone tena msamaria mema akipita, ndo at least mnakuwa na hope ya kwamba mjatupo sana. Otherwise, mnakaa tu mmetupo.
Survival here means adapting to impossible conditions. Officers live on maize meal and black tea, relying on handouts from occasional border crossers. Sometimes they eat meat from wild animal carcasses, a practice that reveals their desperation.
Unakaa wild. Kuna binadamu unachunga hapa, uko tu. Unajua at least kama ungekuwa ni binadamu unachunga, ujulikana at least iko watu unahudumia. Hapa ujui unahudumia nani? Magari ni once in a while.
When medical emergencies strike, the consequences can be fatal. Ernest shares a story that haunts every officer here.
Huyu aligonjeka tu kivi ugonjwa mwingine, lakini baadaye akaenda hospitali akaagia huko mbali kesi hapa. Nategea tu kama kuna gari, kama hakuna huyo mtu asaidiki. Atakaa mpaka tuone gari, mwambie, na hata saa zingine hata wenye kupita wanasema gari imejaa. Na ndio huyo mgonjwa wanaacha wanaenda.
If you are running a house and some part of the house is feeling like we are not taken care of, we are not quite respected, we are not quite on the same page with everybody else, then that's a demotivating factor. And we only are strong as our weakest link. And especially in a high reliability organization as a police service, the weakest link can actually be, the people that are at the border points that are taken there because of this reason and the other.
We contacted the National Police Service for comment. Their response acknowledges the crisis but offers little immediate hope. And I quote, "A team from KPS headquarters was sent to Ileret and Darate to do a comprehensive appreciation of the repairs needed. The same was presented with the estimated costing. These are priority areas for NPS, and as soon as funds are availed, these stations will be made good." As for the communication from commercial providers telcos, this is not a recent challenge. Communication is intermittent at times, but not wholly unavailable. Improvements can certainly be done, and there are conversations to this end. This is being approached in a multifaceted way because lack of network in an area certainly affects all individuals from all walks of life. However, they conspicuously decline to comment on mental health challenges or the vulnerability to attacks these officers face daily. The fears of being vulnerable to attacks are valid, considering that in May 2025, retaliatory attacks in the area killed 4 people. Similar violence in March 2025 forced residents to flee. In 2019, 11 pastoralists were executed by gunmen who crossed from Ethiopia, evidence of the ongoing conflict these abandoned officers face alone.
Service for all, or so goes the motto that underscores the police service in Kenya. But for many of these officers, it is a service they wish they never entered into, languishing in the far-flung areas they're deployed to without proper infrastructure or networks to help them carry out their duties. Like sand through the hourglass, many of these officers are losing the will to carry out their duties in environments they feel forgotten on the frontline in. Ngena Kirori, NTV, Nairobi.